Okay, so today I want to go over just a few basic Photoshop tips and tricks that any amateur with Photoshop can do themselves. Okay, so this image is a picture that I did with a friend a few years ago, and it was just kind of for fun. This was really before I had a good grasp on like things like custom white balance and other photography um, pieces of knowledge that basically separate you from an amateur. So this is my amateur days of photography right here. And if you'll notice, there are quite a few things wrong with the image. Um, first of all, we've got objects in the background that we need to get rid of, the power line here and the power post. Also, her skin tone is a little bit cold. You can look at the shadows on her wedding dress and see that there's kind of a blue cast, a colder cast. So that suggests that the white balance was wrong to start with. So I'm gonna show you how to fix these things and how to fix little things like stray hairs in Photoshop and skin retouching and taking out objects in the background and things like that. So to start with, we're going to fix the color tone. So we want to go to image, and you could go to auto color. I'll show you what it looks like. And you'll get a decent version of what it could look like. I've never really been happy with auto color or auto tone, so I'm going to step backwards. And I'm going to go to image, and I'm going to go to adjustments and pull up my filters, photo filter. And you'll see that the one that pops up automatically is warming filter 85. That's my favorite one. Just leaving it at the 25% density, actually if you just do that and click OK, you'll see it's an amazing difference. That is a much warmer, richer color than the original. If you wanted to, you could fade it back by going to Edit, Fade, Photo Filter. And you'll see that if you lower your opacity to 0, that was your original, and 100% shows you the what it looks like after the filter. And you can kind of play with it and kind of be, meet it in the middle if you want to. I'm going to leave mine at 100% because I'm 100% happy. So say now I want to fix her stray hairs. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here, and I'm going to go to the clone stamp. There's different tools that you can use in Photoshop to do different things. Or you can use the same 5 tools. You can use 5 different tools, to change the same thing. So in this instance, I'm going to use the clone stamp. I'm going to increase my brush size a little bit, and make sure that my opacity is kind of at a low one, like 20-30% or so. And then whenever you click or hold down the Alt button on your keyboard and use your left click to click on a location, that is going to pull data from that location. And you see the little plus sign following me around. You notice that at all times it remains the same distance and at the same angle from my circle. And that's just suggesting that it is following a path that I gave it by holding the Alt button down and left clicking on the location that I wanted. So by doing this, you can see that I'm cloning data from this path, and it kind of gives it a realistic look. Now, as I'm going around her head to different areas, I'm going to change my path by holding the Alt key down and left clicking on a different location. And what I'm going to do here is just kind of change it constantly, because I don't want it to all be, I don't want it to all have the same path, or it's going to create a line around her head. So if you keep doing this and you kind of do it at a low opacity and move it around a little bit and find a different path regularly, then you can avoid that line, and you can kind of match the background a little bit, which is the end goal here. We want to match our background so that you would never know that retouching had taken place. I'm going to let Photoshop catch up to me for a second because it seems to be kind of slow right now. You can kind of see here what I'm doing. It's just some more of that cloning. I'm going to pull data from that area just to kind of change it up. Keep it from looking too much like a pattern. If it starts to look like a pattern in the background, then that's going to be really obvious to viewers that there was some photoshopping done. Okay, so we've removed her stray hairs. Now if you look at her head, it kind of looks like it has a weird shape that maybe you didn't notice so much before. If you wanted to fix that, you could go to Filter and go to Liquefy. This is my favorite tool in Photoshop, and when you see what it does, it will be your favorite. Take your magnification tool and zoom in on the part of the image that you want to edit. And at this point, you can use a few different tools here. You could use the push tool, or the forward warp tool, I mean. And you can see I've got a really big brush right now. You could change that brush size over here, adjust the pressure. I tend to leave my pressure at 100 and just change my brush size. So you could do that. You could go to the push left tool. If you do the push left tool, I'll show you what it does. It pushes left. Go figure. That's, you know, that's kind of a happy change right there. But you'll notice how there's like kind of like some streaky marks right there on the side. I want to see if I can avoid dealing with that, because if I don't and I have to deal with that, it's going to require another 45 seconds of cloning that I'd like to skip over. So I'm going to hit my Control-Alt-Z keys to undo all the way out, over and over, back to where I was. Okay, and now I'm going to go back to my forward warp tool. Now, I like to use my forward warp tool at a big brush because it avoids that streaky pattern. So you see, I'm just slowly warping it forward, hence the name, forward warp tool. And I think that that's a much better shape to her head. Okay, so now here's the fun part. You can take your forward warp tool or your push left tool, and you can really kind of go crazy with it. You can, you know, she doesn't need to lose any weight, but if you wanted to, you could take her waist in. Another way to do that is to use the pucker tool, and make sure that you have it on a brush size that makes sense. Like this is a really big brush size, but you need a big brush because I'm using this to pucker a large area of her body. So by doing that, you can see what it does. It basically shrinks whatever is in my circle, including her hand, which looks a little odd. So we're going to Control-Alt-C and go back and leave it at that. That's kind of a happy medium. This was before, and then that was the happy medium. So we're going to leave it there. I'm going to click OK, and you're going to watch that. You'll see that it made a difference here in just a second. Okay, now let me show you the before and after so you can really tell. We're going to zoom in, go to File, Revert. That's the before. Edit, Undo, Revert. This is after. Okay, now the streaky thing that we were talking about earlier. I did get a little bit of that whenever I use the pucker tool, and the way that you want to fix that is to use your clone tool again, or that's one of the ways that you can fix it. There's 100 ways to fix anything in Photoshop. So while I like to use the clone tool a lot of times and just pull data from different parts of the image, you know, some people might find that the patch tool is their best friend. So there we go. No more streaky behind, or streaky marks left behind. Okay, so now the one thing that we really can't fix about this image is that her eyes are cut too much toward the camera. That's why you only have white on one side of her pupils and not on both sides like you would want. I should have had her look straight outward, you know, towards the horizon behind me, like to my left or something, instead of having her look directly at me. Or I could have fixed this by having her turn her chin more toward the camera, and that would have fixed the problem with her eyes being cut too much. But that's neither here nor there. I wasn't very good of a photographer back then. Okay, so now what we're going to do is go in and take out some of these distractions in the background. I zoomed in a little too much here, so we're going to zoom back out a little. Now, this is where I like to use the patch tool because it saves a lot of time. You could use the clone stamp for this. You could use the healing brush for this. But realistically, with this particular background, the patch tool is just going to be faster. Sometimes the patch tool isn't realistic. So you really need to practice with all different tools if this is something that you're going to be doing on a regular basis, so that you can kind of get the hang and the feel for what tools work best in different situations. And you know, I've been using Photoshop for like 8 to 10 years now, and I'm still learning things every day. There's so much that you can do with this software that it's really hard for me to believe that anyone could ever fully be knowledgeable of everything that Photoshop can do. Okay, so we've gotten rid of that part, and we're gonna go in here and kind of patch tool out some of this wire. We could leave it at this point, this wire right here, because it's not as noticeable, what with the branches and everything being the same color and tone. But I'm going to take it out because I know what it is, and I know it's going to bother me if I look at it. So I'm going to go to my clone stamp here because I'm getting really close to the edge of the image. And when you get close to the edge of the image, clone stamp is going to work better than your patch tool for sure, because patch tool is basically like a skin graph. It's going to pull from the area that you're moving your circle to. So it would pull data from the edge of the image, and it would end up with a weird kind of a ghost effect there. Anyways, you'll see what I'm talking about right here if I use the patch tool. You see that kind of ghost effect there? We don't like that. So we're going to take our clone stamp and clone over it. I'm going to pull data from different parts of the image because I don't want it to look repetitive. Now on a background like this, you could move your opacity up to 100% if you're feeling pretty ballsy. Sometimes I like to do that. There we go. Okay. Now I don't want to go back to I don't want to use my clone stamp to clone all of this because there's going to be a line and it's going to be obvious. So I'm going to go back to using my patch tool now that I'm away from the wall, so to speak. And you can see it did the ghosting thing again. That's just really, I guess it's just going to do that because of the high contrast. There's a lot of dark and a lot of light. So the way to fix that, we're going to go back to our clone right here. Okay, let's try the healing brush. It's like we're learning together. Okay, that didn't look good. So back out, try it again. Okay, you'll see that that works a little bit better. Again, just like with the cloning stamp, you're going to hold the Alt key down and you're going to left click on the area that you want to use to copy information from. Go over it. Now you see how it kind of messed up right there, so we're going to go back to the clone stamp, make my brush a little bigger. I'm just going to stick with the clone stamp for right now. It just takes a lot of practice. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this a long time, and there are days when the patch tool works best, and then there's days whenever the clone stamp works best. It is strictly related to the pixel and the data information in the image that you're working on. But you can see a difference already in the picture. I mean, we've almost completely gotten rid of one power line. So we just have one more to go. Okay, so now I have managed to clone out all of the power lines and everything. And one thing I'm going to do to try to improve this image real quick is I'm going to crop out some of the white space at the top. And I'm also going to make sure that she's in my rule of thirds. Okay, another thing that I might do is go to my burn tool and burn in around the sides a little bit. Change that to shadows. That's too much. So I might